Somebody please tell me why the people who claim to love this family the most are the very same people bleeding it dry, because tonight's episode left me sitting with my hand on my chest wondering how one household can survive this many betrayals in a single week. If you have been keeping up with this story, then you already know that trust in this house is basically extinct, and by the end of today's episode you will understand exactly why I am shaking my head at my screen. Let's start with the situation everybody is talking about. For weeks there had been whispers of a supposed love connection forming between Mankwanyana and the man known as Captain, and honestly, watching the two of them interact, you could almost believe something real was blooming there. He was attentive, he showed up when she needed someone, and he said all the right things at all the right times. But today's episode ripped that illusion apart. It turns out Captain was never interested in Mankwanyana as a person at all. He was circling her the entire time because he had his eye on her money, and he used every ounce of charm he had to manipulate her into trusting him completely before he made his move. When the truth finally came out, Mankwanyana had already been scammed, and the realization hit her like a truck. She went to open a case at the police station, shaken, humiliated, and honestly heartbroken, because this was not just about money, it was about being played by someone she believed actually cared for her. While all of that was unfolding, the household was dealing with its own financial mess. Shobane has been under enormous pressure trying to keep things afloat, and it is becoming painfully clear that money is the root of almost every conflict in this family right now. Matron does not hide her disappointment in her son at all. She sat him down and told him plainly that she trusted him, that she believed in him, and that what he is doing right now is nothing short of a huge disappointment to her. That kind of confrontation from a mother is never easy to watch, especially when you can see Shobane knows she is right but still cannot bring himself to change course. Then there is the whole storyline around Vusi, who honestly seems to be spiraling. Vusi has never been known for being responsible with money, but lately his behavior has gone from careless to outright reckless. He is chasing resources, he is making impulsive decisions, and there is a growing sense that he is being influenced by people who do not have his best interest at heart. Word is that Vusi has been getting closer to Nomalanga, and if you know this family's history, that alone should make you nervous. Nomalanga does not appear to be someone who is after money, and by all appearances she genuinely trusts Mankwanyana, but the concern here is not about her intentions, it is about what happens when trust and money collide in a household already this fragile. I do not believe Mankwanyana is going to make the smartest decision when it comes to this money, and that lack of judgment is exactly what could end up tearing people apart even further. The tension around the money does not stop there either. There is a demand being made for funds meant to be invested, and the person pushing hardest for access to that money is being incredibly forceful about it, essentially saying he needs everything right now, no excuses, no delays. Sifiso, who has stepped into a guardian role, cannot in good conscience hand over that kind of money to someone who is still a child under his care, no matter how much pressure is applied. It is his responsibility to protect that money, and watching him try to hold that line while everyone around him spirals is one of the more grounded moments in an otherwise chaotic episode. Now let's talk about Shwabi, because his storyline this week is honestly heartbreaking in a completely different way. After everything that happened with Sifiso, you would think Shwabi would take a step back and reflect, but instead we see him drawn right back toward old habits and old company. There is real concern that Shwabi might be circling back toward a relationship with Kondiko, and if that turns out to be true, it raises serious questions, because we still do not fully understand what is driving that connection or where it is heading. What we do know is that Shwabi seems to be chasing a version of comfort that keeps leading him into trouble, and it feels like we are watching a slow-motion collision that nobody can stop. Shifting to Mankobo, because her situation this episode was genuinely difficult to sit through. Shwabi was released and almost immediately confronted her, ordering her out of the house they had shared as husband and wife. Mankobo stood her ground, reminding him that this is her home too, that she is still legally his wife, but Shwabi was cold, telling her that if she did not want to see more of him she should leave immediately. When Mankwanyana challenged him, asking what exactly he thought he was doing, there was a moment where it looked like he might raise his hand against her. He never actually followed through, but the fact that the thought crossed his mind at all, that he even got that close to that line, is deeply unsettling. No matter what has happened between them, no matter what accusations exist, there is absolutely no excuse for a husband to even entertain raising his hand to his wife. That single moment changed how I see Shwabi completely, because it showed a side of him that is impossible to excuse away, and Mankwanyana ended up being forced out of her own home because of it. But here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. It later comes out that the video everyone had been using as evidence against Mankwanyana was manipulated. Shwabi is told by a friend that the footage was doctored, that what everyone believed to be proof was not the full truth at all. This revelation should change everything, yet by the way Shwabi has been behaving toward his wife throughout all of this, it is fair to question whether he ever truly stood by her in the first place. A husband who is quick to believe the worst, quick to throw his wife out, and quick to threaten her before verifying the truth is not someone acting in good faith, and I think a lot of viewers are going to struggle to forgive him for that regardless of how this manipulation angle plays out. Speaking of Kondikul, this child continues to be one of the most frustrating characters in the entire show. At this point it genuinely feels like there is very little anyone can do to reach this kid, because every attempt at discipline, every attempt at guidance, gets thrown right back in everyone's face. There is a growing sentiment in the house that Kondikul simply cannot continue living under the same roof as certain family members, and Mankwanyana, despite everything she is going through personally, still wants to return home for the sake of the children, because whatever else is happening, a parent still has to be present. It is a painful reminder that even when marriages are falling apart, the children caught in the middle still need stability, and Mankwanyana seems determined to provide that no matter what it costs her emotionally. Now, let's talk about the situation with Zethu, because this one has been building for a long time and it finally reached its breaking point. After Matron passed away, Shobane was already carrying an enormous amount of grief, and it seems Matron never wanted him to experience that kind of heartbreak layered on top of everything else. But Zethu ended up refusing to marry him, walking out of the church on their wedding day, and I have to be honest, her behavior leading up to that moment was genuinely disappointing. She had been moving from one relationship to another, and she had already told everyone that she was not ready to move forward and marry Shobane, especially after everything that had happened with Sifiso. Despite knowing that, she still chose to go through with the wedding ceremony up until the very last moment, only to change her mind at the altar. If she truly was not ready, she had all the time in the world to cancel that wedding well before it reached that point, and waiting until the actual ceremony to say no is not fair to anyone involved, least of all to Shobane, who was left standing there completely blindsided in front of everyone who came to witness their union. The heartbreak that followed has been brutal to watch. Shobane has been drowning his pain in alcohol, showing up to work in rough shape, clearly struggling to process what happened. Meanwhile Zethu appears to have bounced back almost instantly, showing up at her job the very next day as if nothing had happened, laughing with Thando as though her actions carried no weight at all. That contrast, one person completely shattered while the other one moves on without so much as a backward glance, is honestly difficult to watch, and it says a lot about where each of these two characters stands emotionally. Shobane has responded to all of this by throwing himself into a completely different lifestyle, becoming something of a party regular, and it is clear he is trying to fill a void that this heartbreak carved out of him. Meanwhile, Mankwanyana has been actively looking for that manipulated video, trying to get to the bottom of who exactly altered it and why. He has been reaching out to friends, trying to piece together the truth, and there are hints that he is not willing to give up easily when it comes to reconciling with Mankwanyana. There was even a suggestion of an intimate moment between the two of them that got interrupted the second reality came crashing back in, a reminder that as much as feelings might still exist between them, the situation around that video is far from resolved, and someone out there clearly benefits from keeping the truth buried. Whoever manipulated that footage was almost certainly trying to take advantage of a vulnerable situation, and if that person's motives come to light, it could throw yet another wrench into an already tangled web of relationships. And through all of this, Zethu's story is not quite finished either. There are signs he may eventually come around to accepting a future with Shobane after all, but after everything he has been through, it is fair to wonder whether he will even be in a place to accept her back with open arms, or whether the damage from being left at the altar has changed him too deeply for that. There are also small but ominous details creeping into the background of this episode, hints of bad luck, worried glances, and characters reacting to signs that something unhappy is coming, which tells me the drama in this household is nowhere near finished. If I am being completely honest, what struck me most about this episode is how every single storyline circles back to the same two things, money and trust, and how quickly those two things can destroy relationships when they are absent. Mankwanyana trusted Captain and lost her money and her dignity in the process. Vusi is chasing resources without thinking about consequences. Shobane trusted Zethu with his heart and was left at the altar. Shwabi failed to trust his own wife and nearly crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. Mankobo is caught in the middle of manipulation she did not create. Sifiso is trying to protect a child's inheritance from people who see it only as a quick solution to their own problems. Every single one of these people is being tested right now, and very few of them are passing that test. What I want to know from you watching this recap is simple. Do you think Mankwanyana will ever fully recover from being scammed by Captain, or has this experience changed her trust in people for good? Do you believe Shwabi deserves any sympathy after nearly raising his hand to Mankobo, even once the manipulated video comes to light? And after everything Shobane has been through, do you think he should even consider giving Zethu another chance if she comes back around, or has too much damage already been done? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this family's story is only getting more complicated from here, and I genuinely cannot wait to see how these storylines unfold in the coming episodes. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you do not miss the next full recap, because trust me, this drama is far from over.